Here's a look at the headlines we are following on the Newstrack and also our top story. It was another day of Parliament disruptions and adjournments. Today the showdown was over Congress leader Adhir Chowdhury referring to President Droupadi Murmu as Rashtrapatni. Smriti Irani, leading the government's charge, demanded an apology from Sonia Gandhi. Here's how the political firestorm exploded in Parliament.
कल कांग्रेस के नेता सदन ने देश की राष्ट्रपति को राष्ट्रपत्नी कहकर संबोधित कर उनका अपमान किया. Fury and rage.
It was a sexist insult. Very clearly, the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha aimed at insulting the newly elected president.
Inside and outside Parliament, over senior Congress leader Adhir Chowdhury's Rashtrapatni jibe at President Droupadi Murmu. The BJP upping the ante against the Congress, accusing the party and its leadership of being sexist and demeaning India's first citizen.
Male Congress workers and leaders have continued to demean the office of the President of India. Apologize to the nation. Maafi mango is desh se. Maafi mango Sonia Gandhi आदिवासियों से. Maafi mango औरतों से. Maafi mango गरीब से.
Ma'am, will you ask Adhir to apologize?
He has already apologized.
Rashtrapati stands equally for both woman and man. This is a common knowledge in Hindi or in Sanskrit. It's a deliberate sexist abuse.
कहा था कि राष्ट्रपति भवन हम लोग जाना चाहते हैं, राष्ट्रपति से मिलना चाहते हैं हमारा बात रखने के लिए. कल भी ये नौबत आई. कल भी मैंने ये कहा कि हम राष्ट्रपति जी भवन जाना चाहते हैं और राष्ट्रपति बोलने का तुरंत बाद मुंह से निकल गया राष्ट्रपत्नी जी के साथ मिलना चाहते हैं. ये गलत शब्द निकल चुके हैं. आप इसको इसको तवज्जो दिया करो.
While Adhir Chowdhury tried to pass off the insult as a slip of tongue, as outrage built, he declared that he will personally apologize to President Murmu.
राष्ट्रपति जी से समय मांगी है, समय मांगा है उनसे मुलाकात करने के लिए. उनको जाके उनके पास जाके बात करके मेरी तरफ से जो चूक हुई सारे बयान उनके सामने पेश करूंगा. अगर उसके बाद उनको लगे कि उनको चोट पहुंचे मैं उनसे जाके क्षमा मांगूंगा. एक बार नहीं 100 बार.
As the political face-off escalated, there was a fierce showdown between Sonia Gandhi and Smriti Irani in the House. Sources have told India Today that while Sonia Gandhi was talking to Rama Devi in Parliament, the Congress chief asked her why her name was being taken. Smriti Irani allegedly then overheard the conversation and asked Sonia Gandhi, "Ma'am, may I help you? I took your name." That's when apparently Sonia thundered at Smriti saying, "Don't talk to me."
रमा जी, ऐसा क्यों मेरा नाम बोला जा रहा है? तो मैं कही कि आप अपने नेता से पूछिए, जैसा नेता चुने हैं, पूछिए उनसे. तो फिर स्मृति ईरानी बोली कि आपको पता नहीं है, एक दलित संथाली महिला राष्ट्रपति बनी है और उसके विषय में राष्ट्रपति कहकर अपमानित करने का काम जो आप कर रहे हैं, करवा रहे हैं, ये अच्छी बात नहीं. तो कहीं आपसे बात नहीं कर रहे हैं.
The Congress has denied the charge, saying it was Smriti Irani who misbehaved with the Congress chief.
महिला हमारी सांसद के पास आकर के आज जब श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी ने बात की, उस समय कोई और भी सांसद बगल में आकर के क्या है, क्या हो गया, क्या बात हो रही है, ऐसे पूछने में "You don't talk to me" ऐसे करके दूसरे सांसद को ऑलमोस्ट थ्रेटनिंग आवाज से बात की है.
सोनिया गांधी जी पर आपत्तिजनक नारे लगाए गए. भाजपा ने सोचा कि इन नारों से आदरणीय सोनिया गांधी जी डर जाएंगी, बौखला जाएंगी, वहां से चली जाएंगी. लेकिन एक निडर नेता होने के कारण सोनिया गांधी जी स्वयं उन महिलाओं सांसदों के पास गई.
While the Congress is seeking action against Smriti, the Union Minister herself is likely to file a complaint against Sonia Gandhi. The fiery face-off, though, resulted in another day of Parliament washout. With Supriya Bharadwaj and Poulomi Saha in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Can Adhir Chowdhury get away by saying he's Bengali, his gender is not perfect, he's speaking a second language and therefore he got confused between a Rashtrapati and a Rashtrapatni? Was this a deliberate insult? Given the number of disruptions, is Parliament now meaningless? Because the opposition comes determined to protest and to disrupt, the government pushes its agenda through, and at the end of it, you don't have the kind of constructive debate, which is what Parliament should really witness. Joining me on this broadcast, Jyotimani, Member of Parliament of the Congress. With us also is Aparajita Sarangi, Member of Parliament of the Lok Sabha, member from Bhubaneswar. We've got Sushmita Deb from the Trinamool Congress joining us, and Rajdeep Sardesai joins us on this broadcast as well. I want to go and understand first from Jyotimani why action hasn't been taken against Adhir Chowdhury. He said sorry, he's apologized. The BJP clearly not happy. They're looking to increase the stakes. We saw Smriti Irani gun for Sonia Gandhi herself. Sonia Gandhi says, I don't want to talk to you. The BJP determined that action be taken against Adhir for insulting India's president.
See, nobody intend to insult a president. What is Adhir Chowdhury ji, our Congress party, going to get out of it? The president is the highest office in our country. Everybody respects that office, whether it is a male, woman, whichever community they are come from. That's how India has been so far. See, the slip of tongue can happen to anyone. Yesterday we were, you know how the protests were very aggressive. So he keep on repeating the same word. He used to speak fast, and he also a Bengali. And a slip of tongue can happen anyone. He immediately realized the slip of tongue and he apologized. Matter ends there. It is BJP who dragged the president immediately after her swearing-in ceremony. Is this the controversy presidents get into? They used president. I really ashamed the act of BJP. They used the president and for their cheap, ugly, shameless politics. That is why actually they are doing this. They want to deviate the issue of price rise, GST, which is the Congress party aggressively fighting within the parliament and outside the floor of the parliament just because of raising the issues of price rise and GST. We, the Congress MPs, 4 of us from the Lok Sabha and another 20 MPs from Rajya Sabha has been suspended. So this is what happening here. Smriti Irani ji especially,
Aparajita Sarangi,
Mrs. Gandhi,
Adhir Chowdhury wouldn't be the first Bengali to get his gender in Hindi wrong.
Let me finish.
Okay, Jyotimani, quickly please.
Let me finish. So when Mrs. Gandhi reached out on her own to a BJP senior MP who was a chairperson, Rama Devi ji, when they cordially talking to each other, then Smriti Irani and other ministers, other BJP MPs, who physically tried to intimidate our Congress president. They were yelling at her, accosted her. Is this what happened? Is this what you can do to a very dignified and graceful lady of Indian politics? Anybody will believe Sonia Gandhi ji can behave unruly manner with anybody. This is very shameful. This is pure hooliganism what happened inside the parliament. Smriti Irani and other ministers, other MPs who involved in this kind of ugly, shameful hooliganism should be suspended immediately. Then we are not
You're
going to
calling the actions of the BJP MPs hooliganism. Aparajita Sarangi, Adhir Chowdhury, not the first Bengali to mess up his gender in Hindi, saying this was just a slip of the tongue. By using this to score a political ground, you're actually denigrating the office of our new president.
A very good evening. Whatever has happened is very unfortunate, but at the same time, I would say it's extremely serious. Madam Droupadi Murmu is the president of the country, and she holds the highest constitutional post. So saying anything against her or making a derogatory remark as far as she is concerned is like saying things against the nation as such. It's bringing the esteem of the nation down. If I say she symbolizes the nation, I don't think it would be an exaggeration. So whatever has happened yesterday, I would definitely not call it a slip of tongue. No, Congress, Madam Sonia Gandhi and Shri Adhir Chowdhury cannot absolve themselves of the responsibility by just saying it was a slip of tongue.
There's a bit of
We have all
deja
seen
vu
the
here.
video.
It may be
I have
Smriti
seen
versus
the
Sonia today,
ABP video.
but it almost seems as if it's playing out to a set script. The opposition will find some reason or the other to disrupt proceedings. The government will either oppose it in the manner that they did or allow for the House to be adjourned, push through their bills in the din because they say the opposition is not allowing the House to function, we need to carry on with our legislative agenda. At the end, Parliament seems to be becoming meaningless.
You know, let's look at it in two ways, Rahul. One is Parliament itself. The fact is, I think Parliament at the moment is stuck between the arrogance of a government which has the majority and an opposition which has the frustration of not accepting the majority of the government. So you're stuck in a way between the two tyrannies, the tyranny of the opposition and the tyranny of the government, and there is no meeting ground. Competing egos at times have reached the stage where it seems that there is a complete trust deficit and no one to bridge it. There are no consensus builders. You know, these are the moments where Parliament misses the likes of an Arun Jaitley, someone who could walk across the aisle and perhaps find a solution. Now, in the midst of all this comes this latest controversy, which frankly I think is needless. Let's assume for a moment that, that Adhir Chowdhury has not for the first time got his foot in the mouth by a slip of the tongue. The fact is, he has apologized. He shouldn't have said it in the first instance, he's apologized. The matter should have ended there. In the past, that's where it would have ended. Now what's happening? The opposition wants to make a show of disrupting Parliament. So the government has decided, chalo, nehle pe dehla, you've made this slip of the tongue, we will attack you. So each side in a way wants to occupy prime time. And these are all, Rahul, weapons of mass distraction. The real issues of our times are being lost. This is a Parliament session. As it is Parliament session, the number of sittings are being reduced. At a time of reduced sittings, you would expect parliamentarians on both sides to work with each other, a responsive government and a constructive opposition. Not happening. Because who is there to bridge this divide? All of these, including today's controversy, is in my view a weapon of mass distraction. Now the government is trying to put the opposition on the mat. For the last 3 days, the opposition has tried to put the government on the mat. You and I are speaking in the studio. There are a group of opposition MPs who've been suspended, who are staging a relay strike and a dharna outside the Gandhi statue that will extend right through the night. All of this is all an attempt to capture in some way the mind space, because they are unwilling really seriously to debate the issues of our time. The government is reluctant to do it. The government doesn't want to discuss a few issues, and the opposition at times believes that noise and decibel level may well be an effective substitute for a lack of ideas.
I was in Parliament yesterday and I spoke to multiple ministers who said that the government was willing to discuss GST and price rise. The Congress at that time was insisting that they want to do it when the government wanted to do it when the finance minister came back. The Congress was saying let's do it right away. There doesn't seem to be any scope for a responsive government or a constructive opposition. The opposition just seems determined, Jyotimani, in some form or fashion to find some reason to disrupt proceedings. It's almost predictable now.
I would like to strongly counter Rajdeepji's charge on we the frustrated opposition. Why do we frustrated? We are raising the right issues. GST, price rise, these are all the two important issues killing the people of this country. People can't afford to buy anything. This country is not able to, people unable to live in this country. We are heading towards a Sri Lanka type situation where people don't have food, any basic commodities, they couldn't even have the paper, pencil, nothing. We are slowly heading to this kind of situation. We, the responsible opposition, we are trying to tell the government, don't crush the people, don't kill the people. We have to withdraw the GST, milk, rice, everything you put GST, please withdraw the GST and have a discussion on the price rise. This is what the job of the opposition. We are not frustrated just because of raising the issues. How can you say we are frustrated? If we are frustrated, we shouldn't go to parliament. We are going to parliament and try to tell the government, please have the compassionate heart. Don't be ruthless to the common people, and don't be so helpful to your richest friend, corporate friends who can become the fourth largest rich in the world. This is what we are asking. This government does not want to address the right issues.
With due regard, I think, please appreciate what I meant by frustration. I think there is a frustration there's a frustration that your voice, you believe, is not being heard enough. There is also a frustration at the end of the day that you have lost a series of elections. So while the BJP, you may attack it on price rise and a variety of issues out there during election time, they seem to be triumphing. You are a much smaller group compared to the large BJP, so there is a frustration of not being a numerical, of matching them in numbers. All of this, I think, boils down to a certain element of the opposition also feeling cornered, even as the government, and I use the word, is also very arrogant, because it seems to believe that at the end of the day, what happens in parliament is not going to affect its popularity outside. So they also are completely contemptuous of the opposition. Let's be clear, Rahul, it is the responsibility of the treasury benches to get parliament to work. In 2010, Mr. Arun Jaitley and Sushma Swaraj will recall the entire session was prevented from functioning over the 2G scam, and Mr. Jaitley said there are great benefits in this country to be had through parliamentary disruption and obstruction.
It can't be again and again. Let's get Aparajita to respond to the charge that the government isn't doing enough to be responsive to what the opposition is saying. Why insist for a delay in the discussion on price rise and GST? You could have done it this week and just got on with parliament functioning in the way that it should.
You know, to say that we are arrogant and to say that we do not want to get into any kind of discussion and to say that we do not want to hear the opposition or anybody so to say are absolutely far from the truth. On 17th of July, there was a Sarvdaliya Baitak. Out of 45 political parties, 36 turned up, and Sri Mallikarjun Kharge had given a list of about 13 topics on which discussion had to be held. Of course, GST and price rise were number 1 and number 2. Now, I think this has been made very clear, amply clear on the floor of the Lok Sabha. I'm a witness to it. Prahlad Joshi ji was there, and of course outside the Lok Sabha also in TV channels. Prahlad Joshi ji has categorically stated that we are ready for discussion. Madam Nirmala Sitharaman was not there. She is back now. Now we will hold the discussion. So there is a procedure. You know, you just can't be unruly and unparliamentary. See, the
let me put that question to Sushmita there of the Trinamool. She's amongst the 7 Trinamool MPs who've been suspended now in that long list of about 27. Sushmita Dev, this isn't very unreasonable. The government saying the finance minister has COVID, which was a fact. She's back in action now. Wait for her to come back. We will have a discussion on the issues that you want, and yet the opposition determined to do a protest, not allowing for the House to function, not allowing for the finance minister, who has to respond to charges on GST, inflation and interest rates, to come and listen to the debate and then respond. Isn't that a legitimate concern on the part of the government?
You know, I would like to ask a question on record. At what point did the government say that it's because of the fact that Nirmala ji is indisposed that we are unable to debate? From the first day of the monsoon session, different members of parliament from the opposition moved a similar notice to debate price rise and GST. Nirmala ji being indisposed never came up in the parliament. When it did come up in the business advisory committee meeting, we made it very clear, we wish her well, hope she gets well soon. Let the debate start, we will wait for her to come and reply. Or just like in the Farm Bills case, which is nothing to do with the defense minister spoke in it. When the Rafale scam came up in parliament, it is not the Nirmala Sitharaman ji who was the defense minister there, but Arun Jaitley ji, the finance minister. So it is not unprecedented for this party in this parliament to have other senior ministers, discuss important issues. We never said Nirmala ji has to speak and she has to come now. None of that happened. Please understand, Rahul, let me say another further thing. Go back and check the record of the budget session. 27 days in Rajya Sabha we moved notices to discuss price rise. It was not allowed. That time Nirmala ji was not indisposed. It is the new normal in Parliament. What's happening outside in the nation is a suppression of criticism. It's the same bulldozing that's happening in Parliament, and that is absolutely unhealthy for the largest democracy in the country.
Parajita, you want to respond to the charge of suppressing criticism, finding some reason to delay the proceedings in Parliament so that you run out of days and then there aren't enough days to actually debate and discuss, which is what Parliament should be doing from morning till late into the night.
See, we have facts, we have arguments, we have answers, so there is no question. Why should we shy away from any kind of discussion?
Check the facts.
I will give you two instances. Just bear with me for 30 seconds. Day before yesterday on the floor of the House, when Prahlad Joshi ji said, we are ready for discussion, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman is back. And suddenly he says, the next sentence was, let's have the discussion today. Let's fix up the discussion time today. And suddenly all these people again rushed with the placards to the speakers, to the well of the House, and started, showing the placards before the speaker. And then they staged a walkout. This was it, day before yesterday in the morning at 11 o'clock. At the time the question hour would have started. This is one. This is how they have behaved. This is how they have responded to the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs' assurance that the discussion could take place that very day. This is one. Number two, please go through the rules of business for the past 2-3 days. The last point is half-hour discussion under Rule 193 desired by Gaurav Gogoi. Now, unfortunately, I fail to understand, Gaurav Gogoi ji, in the last part of March, had given a notice saying that he wanted a discussion on what the country is doing, the government is doing as far as sports improvement is concerned. Right. So, immediately that was taken up, and Rule 193 half-hour discussion, generally it is not allowed. But every day, rules of business, the last point is Gaurav Gogoi's thing would be discussed, but he is not there, Congress is not there, so what do we do?
Okay, Rajdeep, is there a way out, or will this be the way it stays? Will things just get much worse from here?
I have a solution, or I've been reading up to think that there is a solution. In Britain, for example, there is one day in the week which is open house, where the opposition can ask whatever questions they want and the government ministers have to respond. There's also, of course, a day when the Prime Minister's question hour comes and the Prime Minister responds to all questions. The fact is, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has not taken and answered a single question in Parliament for 5 years. Yes, he comes during the President's speech, he will respond to that, but direct question doesn't take. Just see what's happened in Britain. There's a day every week allotted for Prime Minister's questions, and there's a day which is an open house. Look, Rahul, at the end of the day, tali do haath se bachti hai. We can go on blaming each other, but we need structural reforms, procedural reforms to ensure that this trust deficit that has broken out, and Sushmita is right, the polarization that we are seeing outside Parliament in politics is reflecting inside Parliament. That will only change if procedurally we can ensure that the two sides can face to face have a debate at least once a week. Price rise, border tangle with China. Once a week you can answer all questions.
No, but a lot
How
of
the
this,
government responds is up to the government
A lot
to
of
decide.
this, frankly, is for the cameras. I was in the Central Hall of Parliament in the morning when Rashtrapatni Droupadi Murmu was being sworn in. The moment the cameras got off, the President left, the government and the opposition, all the MPs are very cordial towards each other, talking to each other nicely, hugging each other. So a lot of this is just, you turn the camera on, we put on our punching gloves. The moment the cameras get off, then everybody's just talking to each other totally normally. Sushmita Dev, is this the way it will stay? Or do you think that there could be a solution? Because we still have about a year and a half to go before the next elections. And if it continues this way, then frankly, you'll keep saying that the government's not allowing for disruption, not allowing for discussions, and Parliament will be meaningless.
You know, Rahul, let me tell you something. You look at every procedure that is there in the Parliament, and the way it is structured, it is based on the basic principles of democracy, that the opposition must have the opportunity to make the government accountable and answerable. Whether it's the question hour, whether it's a debating on the bills, whether it's a discussion under 193 or 267 or whatever. It is about opposition asking the questions and raising the issues of the people, and the government, who obviously has a mandate, and that's why they are in government, to openly reply. It is a forum for debate, discussion, disagreement. That is why we are a democracy. But what happens is bullying. Okay, what happens is bullying. Sometimes people who watch parliamentary procedure, it is shocking what question you ask and the standard of replies that come from the minister. I mean, it's like chalk and cheese. I mean, people who look at Lok Sabha proceedings and Rajya Sabha proceedings should know that. See, a government with a mandate only shows confidence when they do not indulge in delaying tactics and procrastination. When they say, if you want a debate today, we'll debate today, that shows a confident government. This
Aparajita Sarangi,
is repeatedly delaying
27 MPs, including Sushmita Dev, suspended. Will you revoke these suspensions, allow for discussions to happen, or will this whole session be a washout, which is the direction which things seem headed right now?
See, we are very sad, and in fact, a couple of days back when the Rajya Sabha MPs had to be shown the door, sorry I'm using this, statement. It was said by Piyush Goyal ji that we did it with a very heavy heart. The government would never like the MPs belonging to any political party to go out of the houses. But the fact remains that there has to be maintenance of decorum in the house, and there can be no compromise with the dignity of the house. We are well aware of the fact that every minute we are losing 2.5 lakh rupees, and till date almost 135 crore rupees have gone from the public exchequer. Only 2 bills have been passed in the Lok Sabha. Now today, wildlife protection amendment bill had to come, it could not be discussed, otherwise I think we would have got another bill passed today. So I think it is combined responsibility of both the ruling party and the opposition to not just run the government but to take the nation forward. We have to actually work together, and it is combined responsibility. I can never say that only the ruling party is responsible for running the parliament, the both houses of parliament. So I think we would definitely like maintenance of decorum. We would definitely like discussion in a very good environment, very amiable environment, and let's talk to each other and let's sort it out. That is the only answer to the entire issue that I can see.
You know, with due regard, ma'am, this is classic. You know, this is listening to you. I'm reminded of how India has changed in a decade. A decade ago, it was Sushma Swaraj ji and Arun Jaitley who would say disruption is legitimate. We need to do it to bring certain issues to the public. It's important for a democracy to disrupt parliament.
That's what every session. That was the 2G scam. 2G is one of the biggest scams in recent times. It can't happen day after day, session after session.
Rahul, my point is where you stand depends on where you sit. Today, Aparajita is in the government, so she's talking about a waste of time and money, which is exactly what Kamal Nath, who was then Parliamentary Affairs Minister, would say about, and he was in the Congress at the time, which was in government. So where you stand depends on where you sit. My point, Rahul, is that at the end of the day, we are reaching the stage where people will say, why do we have Parliament to function in the manner that it is? Where are my issues being reflected in the ultimate forum of democracy? So the lack of faith that the average citizen will eventually have in Parliament, and many of our MPs now are convinced that they won't win the election based on their performance in Parliament. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, based on your speeches in Parliament, you became a national figure like an Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Somnath Chatterjee and others. Today, it is not what you say, do in Parliament doesn't seem to affect your electability. So most of these MPs, Rahul, today are not really concerned about how they perform inside Parliament.
You pick the odd issue, let's assume there's a big scam or corruption in the government, and you go after the government, that is still understandable. Take, for example, the 2G issue. Here it seems to be any issue, any day, any session, you will find a reason to target the government. It's very predictable. Your disruptions then completely lose their meaning. Jyotimani?
Don't you think price rise and GST, don't you think price rise and GST is not an issue?
Of course
do
it
you
is.
think we should
To be
the
debated
opposition,
and discussed,
responsible,
not for
constructive opposition, should
disruption.
not raise the issues of the price reviews? When the Rafale scam happened, we raised the Rafale scam issue. Because this happened, we raised the Pegasus issue. Now there is an issue of price rise, issue of GST. That is the issue of people affecting the common people. My friend from BJP is talking about every day 5 lakhs rupees. I appreciate the value of money. Don't you think how many billions of rupees actually people are losing every day due to price rise and the GST? That's what we are bringing into the notice of the government. We would like to have a discussion in the floor of the assembly. What is for the parliament? Parliament is for the discussion and debate, as Susmita rightly said, a disagreement. There should be a civility in the discourse. What happened today in the parliament? You will heckle a 75-year-old dignified, graceful lady who has sacrificed everything for the country, who was behind the historic Manrega and the Right to Foot Act. You will behave with her like this. That too, she is reached out to tertiary bench. She is unarmed. She believes you. She respected you. She came to you. This is how you behaved with her. So this what kind of dignity and decorum we are talking about the politics.
Okay, final words, Aparajita Sarangi, before I wrap up.
MPs who are suspended MPs.
She's saying take the
give me 1
suspensions
minute,
back.
Rahul,
I can only say that...
We are the 24 MPs we suspended. Why don't we warranted suspended just because it raised the people issue? This kind of shameful behavior don't warrant the suspension. We want this government to suspend the union ministers, other unruly MPs who behaved uncivilized manner with our Congress.
Okay, Aparajita Sarangi, final words.
The ruling party, the government, wants to run the parliament with an open heart and an open mind. Number one. Number two, we would definitely not like anybody, whosoever, from the ruling party or the opposition to cross the Lakshman Rekha. We have to live within our limits. And number three, very important, the opposition party friends must realize that there is a difference between Sadak and Sansad. Sadak cannot be Sansad and Sansad cannot be Sadak. When you come to Sansad, you have to come with facts and arguments. Tathya aur tark ke saath aana padta hai, and we are all ready for any kind of discussion.
Now let's see what happens tomorrow. It's crucial because there has to be give and take on both sides. It can't be take from the opposition or only give from the government. There has to be a give and take, and only then will Parliament serve any purposes. Both Rajni and I are very perturbed and worried. If this is the way it continues, Parliament will lose all meaning. It's already lost a lot of its meaning. If this is the way it continues, it will just become a predictable reality show where you wake up and there's a disruption, nothing happens. You know, in fact, when I was in Parliament, a couple of the ministers went in and they said, "Bas 2 minutes wait karo, abhi adjourn hoga, we'll come back and then we'll have a cup of tea." I mean, even the opposition leaders know there'll be an adjournment. Those in government know there'll be an adjournment, and becomes a big adda session, people sitting around because they know that there will be no functioning of the House. That is completely not what India's Parliament should be about. You're on board the Newstrack 6 days after the first mountain of cash was recovered at his associate's residence. Partha Chatterjee was sacked today from the Bengal government. He's also been suspended from the Trinamool Congress. The action came day after another 28 crore rupees in cash was recovered, taking the total recoveries in the Bengal recruitment scam to a stunning 57 crore rupees of cash and counting.
Endless bundles of cash which took the ED 10 hours to count using multiple cash counting machines loaned from banks. Huge pile of gold ornaments. It was another day of ED raids and another cash mountain surfacing. The second raid on Partha's aide Arpita's second home helped the ED net a massive 29 crore black cash haul. Apart from 5 kgs of gold ornaments, the ED stumbling upon nearly 50 crores in total from Arpita so far. The agency had to use 10 large trunks to transport the seized cash.
Cash was kept inside the bedroom. Not only that, some cash was recovered from the bathroom. It was kept in a cabin inside a cabinet of wash basin. That reveals, there are many more to unfold it, and Enforcement Directorate is probing this matter. And opposition's claim this is just tip of an iceberg.
The BJP saw clear role of Mamta herself, calling the Chief Minister a thief who looted young job aspirants using her minister.
कि ममता बनर्जी 100% जोड़ी थे पार्थिव चटर्जी के साथ, पूरा स्कैम के साथ वो जोड़ी थे। तो ऊपर से पैसा गिरा नहीं। आप चोरी करेंगे और आप बोलेंगे भाई हमको क्यों पकड़ रहे हैं? ममता बनर्जी खुद चोर है। ममता बनर्जी पश्चिम बंगाल में पूरा भारत का सबसे बड़ा घोटाला का मास्टर है।
The ED has revealed that Arpita is cooperating with the probe, adding that Arpita has even admitted that the cash pile indeed belongs to disgraced TMC Neta Partha Chatterjee. With Manish Pandey in Delhi and Ritik Mandal in Kolkata, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.